roles. And maybe some women do not have enough trainings before to fully qualify for those roles, but take some risk, put women into those roles, let them to swim, and give some degree of protection and some sponsorship. Also make them to allowance to make some minor mistakes, and just to have, give them some adventure. So will make women to be confident with themselves, and also bring the fresh look to the company's strategy.
Thank you. So now I'd like to come to the two gentlemen, one with a very global perspective, one with a fabulous corporate culture there. How do you see men can really fit into the picture of women empowerment? We discussed a few really areas to work on, whether it's mental health and stress related or planning for fertility, all of these. So any good suggestions that you have for especially men out there?
I'll start. So first, I think we have the concept of male allies. I think this has to be an intentional and purposeful effort. For example, coming to the forum and speak out, I think it's important. Especially for male leaders, if you're in an organization, people are looking to you. You're casting a longer shadow in the organization. How you behave, how you take a positive stand is really critical. So I think that's the first thing. If you want to be a champion, you need to make sure your behavior, your promotion of professional women programs are very visible across the organization. The other thing is, while you're encouraging positive behaviors, it is also very important for you to speak out when you see biased behaviors. I think that's super critical as well. I think being a leader, you need to be able to help everybody understand what is the right thing to do, at the same time, what is not the right thing to do. I think that's something that we need to keep in mind in addition to being mentor, being sponsor, and all the other things we need to do.
Thank you. Biraj?
I'm going to offer a perspective, not from the leadership one, which you've covered, but just in day-to-day general ways we can help empower women just by our behavior, by being more inclusive, by being more respectful, empathetic to the different struggles that women face. We have to ensure that even in our households and in the workplace, we maintain a level of respect for women. UN Women has this program called He for She, which we launched with Emma Watson, where we try and galvanize men from all walks of life to stand up for women. And you don't necessarily have to be a leader to achieve that. You can, just be an ordinary, employee who can just stand up for the values that you believe in, and those values being gender equality and women's empowerment. You brought up a very good point on biases, and I'd like to add on that on subconscious biases that we have as men. And there are times where one would have certain biases against women without really even recognizing it. I've had it in the past in my career when I would be speaking to some of my colleagues, qualified or way more qualified than I am, but if I'm speaking on something that is a bit technical, I would try and explain a bit too much, or mansplain, as they say. And then for somebody working in UN Women, that is a very, the wrong thing to do, right? I mean, fortunately, it was early on in my career and caught it on really fast. But yeah, there are numerous ways we can, try and step back and see, observe our behavior and make small adjustments in day-to-day life. And I think that really complements, looking at leaders and how they influence others. And it's a bit of a top-down and bottom-up approach. We need both.
That's a great example. Let me pick up on this and ask each of the panelists to give one example, whether as a man, you realized there were times that you did not realize what you said could have been a bad joke to a woman or whatever, or as a woman, where you felt how the man did something and you found a very either direct or polite or however way to correct that. One example from each panelist, please.
I don't know if it can be called an example. It's something we did at HPE. We actually looked across the organization on unconscious bias words and terminologies that we use in the company, even in coding. We removed over 1,000 terminologies in the company documentation. For example, just the easy one to relate to, because that's for all inclusive, right? But for men and women, you see a lot of documentation, you just mention he. So in general, you believe he seems like representing everybody, but it represents only half of the people. So I think sometimes people say, oh, it's kind of superficial. Why do you have to do it? But I believe it's taking a stand. It's taking a stand that we don't want to tolerate even unconscious bias. We want to create an environment, and we call it unconditionally inclusive. And that's our stand, and we're taking all the measures to do it.
Okay, so tip 1, if you're a man out there are times, take a pause, think if you're doing too much of a mansplaining. Tip 2, if you're a man and when you're seeing a lot of he, take a pause, think if you should say he or she. Tip 3.
In Chinese, you don't have the problem.
There you go. That is a lot more inclusive. Yeah, please.
Merck is a science and technology company. We're in the business of life science, electronics, semiconductors, and chemicals, pharmaceuticals. Sometimes we participate in some high-level, powerful forums or meetings full of science and technology, but all these panelists sometimes will come across are all men, right? Sometimes you sit there and you see in the panel list 5 people or 10 people are all male, all right? So I think that's a little bit unbiased. There are some discrimination there, right? You need to hear the diversified voice and different ages and plus female voices and also different background. I think we should start in the corporate level, eliminate those panels with all males. We should do that and make sure at least some woman voice to be heard, especially in those important positions. But also that encourage women to step one step ahead to in front of cameras, in front of the speakers, in front of sitting in the first rows of the whole room and there to speak up. I think women, before to do that, and women has to have some mindset to get prepared for that.
Thank you. So tip 3, step up, sit in the front, and be heard. Gloria.
So when I, was younger, 20, 25 years.
Even younger.
Even younger, okay. 20, 25 years ago, you mentioned those jokes that people, don't feel comfortable. So I experienced quite a bit of that because I was a journalist. When my first job was a journalist. So there were a lot of those trips, and actually at the time, I find most of journalists were male. And, after a few beer, and they would start to tell jokes. So, and I was young. I was most of the time probably the only female in the room. So, but I think at the time I found it was kind of intimidating just to, basically it was not the culture. So what I tried to do, because I just didn't like it, what I tried to do, I didn't participate. When they left, I was giving them a poker face. Yeah. So, I think that most of the time, actually, there will be people who are sensitive and who will notice that actually you didn't enjoy it. So there are many ways to tell people that you don't like the way they behave, and in a less offensive way. And I think, it worked well most of the occasions. But now, after all these years, I think a lot of education, awareness type of, not men explaining, but education, sharing. I think people, even in China, people are more sensitive about, the proper way to speak in public. So I do not feel that type of uncomfortableness most of the time. You still go out to have a beer or still go to banquets. There are less and less that type of situation that I need to cope with.
Thank you, Gloria. It's a really important tip, this tip 4, where you let the other people know how you feel. You find your way of letting them know about it. And obviously being the only woman in the room is not as helpful if there are more and more of us. But I think the more we do this together, the more we will feel if there are 10 men against 1 woman versus 10 men against 3 women in the room, I think the chance for the women to express our different feelings would be very different. So let's do that. Now, related to that, I want to slightly change the topic and address a white elephant in the room, which is the new fertility policy in China. So with the new policy, many people are concerned that that would be very disruptive for women to have that ability to continue to choose to work and pursue her career, and how to really find the balance, if any, for work and life. Any advice on this, please?
Maybe I start because Merck has very good medicine pipelines in fertility. We cover all the most women in China. So currently, it's 1 out of 10 couples have some problems in conceive, and the woman fertility incidence rate is getting higher every year. So we provide medical solutions to all these women. But however, we see the birth rate is getting lower and lower every year, and the willingness to have more children is not there. So therefore, in our company, we started quite a good family supporting policy, the paid given family care leaves, and also support a woman during maternity leave, and also the breastfeeding time. A woman can choose a flexible hour. Currently, Merck China use a 2 days work away from home policy. We can choose 3 days work at the office and 2 days work from home. Those are friendly, family-friendly policy. I think that's the low birth rate is fundamental, the root of in the rules of what type of future that China want to be, and how much innovation, the powerhouse, how much we want. Because if no population, then there is no labor power, no enough intelligence, no wisdom, and no investment, and no economy, so etc. There's all the chain reaction in those low birth rate. So to have really good family supportive, family friendly policies in different level, junior manager level, middle management level, senior manager level, to work it out. It's not only one company's responsibility, but the whole society, and also government also need to give more concrete and solutions for